Jack Keane on all of this. And General, I know last time you and I were chatting about this turn in fortune for the Ukrainian soldiers who now have taken back more than 3,500 square miles of Ukrainian land that had been under Russian control. So obviously, President Biden wants to say, all right, let's keep this going. But there isn't quite a universal receptive audience for that. What do you make of where the world stands on helping Ukraine right now?
Well, certainly Ukraine has had a successful counteroffensive, as we've all seen. It's been much more rapid than anyone actually predicted. And they have operational momentum, which is absolutely crucial. That's the problem the Russians had in the Donbass region. They absolutely lost it, and they gave the Ukrainians an advantage. I just attended a meeting at briefed by the Pentagon on, what we're providing, and there's no doubt in my mind that the Pentagon is in this not just for the near term all in, but for the long term all in, and they're emphasizing that. So they've got staying power, and that's a good thing. But you put your finger right on it. Are the Europeans going to be with us? I mean, right now, the United States and the UK, we provide over 75% of the support that's going into Ukraine in terms of arms, munitions, and economic financial support. And yes, there are other countries that have to step up. And certainly Germany and France can do so much more, Neil, than what they're doing. They both have obviously an economic situation that's favorable in terms of the size of their budget, and they also have military equipment that would be vital. And the fact that they're still sitting on their hands, given who they are, is shameful. Meanwhile, you got Eastern European countries all in. I was talking to the director of Poland's National Security Bureau who came to see me, and he said he's taking equipment out of his operational units, Neil, to put it into Ukraine. And the reason is obvious to him. He says, we can defeat the Russian army in Ukraine without the Poles having to fight him. That's in my interest. So we're going to take some risk with our forces now for the long-term benefit of defeating the Russian army. And that makes compelling sense.
If you don't mind, General, I'd like to switch to what's happening in Taiwan right now, and a top admiral, saying, we're so focused on, the Chinese invading Taiwan that they could be just as effective blockading Taiwan. It would essentially ostracize Taiwan from the rest of the world, make it very difficult for anyone to get ships through, presumably including the U.S., and that they're capable of doing just that. What would that mean if China were to take that next step and just blockade all of Taiwan?
Yeah, well, when we look at this and what the pattern that they have achieved under President Xi, obviously in taking control of the South China Sea by building the artificial islands there, the intimidation, coercion of Taiwan and violating the maritime and air interdiction zones, that's all what they refer to as hybrid warfare in the gray zone. In other words, something less than conflict, but you're able to achieve military objectives without having to fire a shot. So we've always looked at the DD-type invasion that China is certainly preparing for, and they want to be able to be ready to do that by 2027, even though that's their most dangerous option, and that obviously also at the same time gives them the greatest success if they're able to do it. It's the least likely. More likely is blockade, and even a lesser form of blockade, which would be a quarantine, where they would control what's going in by air and control what's going in by sea, but let the humanitarian efforts to sustain the economy keep going. In other words, the people will still be able to function, and yet who's in charge? China would be exercising control. After all, that's what they really want over Taiwan, and influence. They haven't fired a shot, and that would force Taiwan to respond, and whether the United States would respond in kind. So I think logically, that's a much more favorable option for them to exercise. Would Taiwan respond? You betcha. They would respond, and then it remains to be seen what the United States' actions would be, what the president's desires would be at that point, what the nature of the conflict is, and how effective is the quarantine on Taiwan. But you're right. It's a much more likely option because it fits the entire scenario on how President Xi has been operating for the last 10 years.
It is scary. General, thank you very much. Jack Keane, U.S. four-star general, retired. He's fortunate to be, we're fortunate to have him sort of assessing the dangers right here. Plenty of them, as